Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organizations. Each and every episode, we sit down with experts from various fields from around the world, just like you're grabbing a coffee with them, to dive into real, practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So go grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, how do you grow something big without losing yourself in the process? Oftentimes, many of us and some of us leaders have experienced burnout or compromise, or sometimes we forget who we are in the pursuit of success. But what if it didn't have to be that way? I'm so honored to talk with today's guest about this topic. His name is Andrew Russell. Started his career not in a boardroom, but in a high school hallway. He was a guidance counselor, football coach, and today he leads one of the top mortgage brokerages in the country. His journeys just isn't about numbers. It's about people. It's about scaling with empathy, leading with authenticity, communicating with heart. I have followed him on LinkedIn for a while. I am just honored to have this conversation. I know it's going to really be effective for many of our listeners. I know it's going to be transformational. And so if you're ready to learn how to lead without sacrificing your identity, you're in for something special today. Andrew Russell, welcome to the Speak with People podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That's some intro, man. I wish I could
Hey,
record that and bring that around with me on the day to day. That was amazing. Thank you.
I love it. We do offer some of those recordings if you need, for your spouses or your kids or your,
Yeah, like let's get
coworkers.
ready to rumble, Andrew. I'm like, wow.
Just remember how, let me play this for you.
Sometimes the kids will do the intro for me, and it wouldn't be as nice as yours. My two little daughters, so that's another story.
Uh, I love it. Well, hey, before we hop into the conversation, maybe tell us a little bit about you, your journey, who you are, what you do, what's kind of got you to this place.
Yeah, Andrew Russell, owner, founder of RCG Mortgage. Yeah, I started, psychology, master's in psychology, really all about, that space. Like you said, guidance counselor, football coach. Somehow got into the mortgage business at the crash, which was a, great timing. I did one whole subprime loan. It was a wild one loan. And ever since, it's really been about the month over month. It's only been harder. I wouldn't say it ever got easier, but I got into the purchase side of the mortgage business versus refinance 2008, and it just correlated to me to psychology and counseling, right? The journey, empathy, less business, more about counseling and therapy almost. We definitely are a client's therapist at times. I did very well. I kind of deployed my own sales strategies within there, which is like, I call it like the straight line method in purchase, where we get to their needs, we hold their hand, we talk through it with them. And it's obviously profitable if you're very good at it. So, lucky enough at that time of my life, a lot of my friends, demographic wise, from their age perspective, were buying. They gave me a crack. Hey, Andrew, I see you're doing the mortgage gig now.
Yep.
How are you? Don't mislead me and my wife, otherwise, I'm be super upset. And I did a great job, and I kind of grew. Every couple of years, I found a new opportunity, a new company, something for growth. I've never been afraid of taking a chance and trying to grow, even if I was making the most money that I've ever made. Believe it or not, my parents always thought I was crazy. 2015, literally realized, wow, these brokers, they're starting to get market share. Didn't know what a broker was. I knew the direct lender, which is very popular. Um, Started my own mortgage company in 2017, just me and a couple people in the back of an office. Fast forward to now, we're about 40, 3 years in a row, NAMBI Broker of the Year winner, which is a big honor, top originator across the country. And we have big, big, grandiose visions for the future. So that's kind of where we are in our journey.
Wow. Wow. That's exciting. And especially as a business owner, I love interviewing other business owners, especially as they have grown it, scaled it, continue to learn. Just love that wisdom. I know many of our listeners are entrepreneurs, people who are just doing that process. Kind of take us back. So, goodness, guidance counselor, uh, must have some incredible stories. But what are some of the skills or the things that have translated from that to what you do now, and kind of have served you well?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and what I've heard from feedback is, oftentimes mortgage loan officers, that's obviously my backbone, or all of us in the space, they're not the best listeners. They talk
Mm.
to the client, at the client type thing. They talk to them, and this is like the big thing that I train my team to ask the right questions, make the client feel like they're a human being, not a file, not a DTI, not
Wow.
an acronym. That's been great in my career because you talk about being a counselor, psychologist, or therapist, or all the above. Asking the question and then listening, being quiet, letting the client talk. And every client's different. Some want to you to kind of hold their hand and guide them. Some want to tell you, and your job is just kind of to direct them. There's a million types of clients out there: Gen Z, millennials. A lot of them kind of searching for information, but want to kind of tell you at times. Even though I work with over 10,000 people, of course they Googled it or Chat GPT'd it. As my little daughter say, they searched it up, so they know best. But I think that's always been the biggest thing. Is I have a more of a counseling therapeutic background to this space versus business. I don't have a degree in business at all. So when it comes to the mortgage journey, especially, I'm sure you've heard in the country, it's been a rocky mortgage journey over the last couple of years. It used to be like, hey, if you work with me, the flight will be great and there'll be drinks and movies and we'll land great. Now it's, look, there's a very good chance to be a lot of turbulence. But at the end of the day, every single of my 10,000 clients has always landed safe. We got you. We're there to love on you and have your back. It's going to be a rough process. But that type of communication, I think, has been really amazing. And that's something where, again, from a competitor perspective, they're like, listen, I'll send you the application. We'll talk about your DTI and LTV. And then the client, after the call, is left confused and not
Hmm.
heard. I feel like, I'm super proactive with building a relationship and getting to know them and making them feel comfortable and talking to them as a friend, that where I'm just, at a bar watching the Jet game with a friend. I say the Jets, unfortunately. Um, and that's another thing my kids are suffering with. That's another story, right? I'm making them feel like I'm there and I'm the industry expert and I'm helping them throughout the process versus talking down to them, confusing them, making them feel more anxiety that's not needed.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you hit on something I'm very passionate about. We've kind of coined this phrase, speak with people, not at them. Wasn't the first to say it. Found out Vin Scully, late LA Dodgers broadcaster, said it in the 60s. But yeah, this whole process. Why do you think more leaders speak at? I run into them all the time. I do trainings about this with, companies all the time. And, why do you think it just takes us a while sometimes to get to that place where instead of doing exactly what you're talking about, asking the questions, listening, building the relationship, we come in with, we're the genius. We'll give you we'll talk down at you. We'll kind of love your thought process on that.
Yeah, I think that in our business, there is no training to that. So I came
Mm.
into this business with that skill set. I mean, I did for internships, even let alone the job, part of interventions, part of some real crazy stuff, working with, probably at this point, thousands of kids. So what does that teach you when you work with children? Patience. Ask the questions, let them, right? But if you think about it, what does it take to become a loan officer in this country? A 2.5 day webinar where I promise you no one's paying attention, right? It's the truth. I did. They may not. You read the textbooks and it's a test, right? It's a memorization test that doesn't really, to your point, have any of that skill set involved. Then you get a job at a broker, at a bank, an FDIC, a credit union, and there's no real training high level on that: how to talk to a client, how to take an application, how to build rapport, how to empathize. It's just, oh, they're putting 3.5% down, put them into this mortgage, or oh, their income is X, tell them to do Y. So for me, I'm kind of self-taught, but that's just because I had the skill set
Yeah.
previously in my studies, and that's what I bring to my company and the culture here. Whereas, again, sales training, there is none to that effect. So you say leaders, people that know mortgage through and through. In other words, if I didn't have this previous existing training, and I know if you call me with 1,000 different iterations of who you are, what you do, your credit, your income, your assets, loan product, 2025, non QM, what does that even mean? All that stuff I kind of know, but there isn't necessarily training for those individuals that are really good at mortgage on how to be really good at sales and mortgage, because sales and mortgage is more of what we just discussed versus this is the loan product, this is how you fit. It's more that, consultative approach, which again, it's just not offered from a training perspective.
Right. So at the time when you pursued the psychology degree, you pursue the graduate work and all that kind of stuff, probably didn't have an idea of how well it would serve you uh, throughout the years. And so,
Yeah, not at all. I mean, for me, I've always enjoyed learning about why people do act, say what they do, like the whole psychology behind it. As I was undergrad into my master's program, I was like, I'll just, learn about this. And typically, when you go to college, you're not necessarily learning a craft. This was just something that I actually enjoyed. Now, granted, at the time, I was super cool. I was living the dream, working in the Hamptons, doing security. So to get me to focus on being a master's student, during the week and especially at night was difficult. So it had to be something that I was, the dopamine had to fire off when I went to class. And I just love learning about it. At the time, it was cognitive behavioral, meaning why people think things and then what that does to what they do, their actions.
yep.
Some of the Freudian psychology where people might get stuck in certain, just whatever all that stuff was. I just love learning about it, and because of that, I've taken and kind of correlated into what we do.
Oh, I love that. How important has empathy been in your journey, and then especially is your journey of growing this business to the rate and the scale that it has?
Empathy is everything because if you put yourself, the problem is, what is empathy? Putting yourself in the other person's shoes, understanding their experience. You don't have to agree with them, understanding their experience and why they're acting, behaving, feeling what they do. That's really what it is, in my opinion, especially in this business. So if you think of the client journey over the last couple of years, rate volatility, that probably sucks if you're a
Yeah.
client thinking your payments 4,000 a month all in, and then all of a sudden, because of rate volatility, they go to lock their interest rate in, and now it's 4,400. To mortgage guys, the average bear would be like, well, you still qualify. We'll refi you in the future. No big deal. To the client, like, well, I have a
Yep.
daughter starting private school and my wife's clunker. I got to, bring back to Lexus and get a new one. And, so understanding like before it happens with the client, how they may react helps with the delivery. And then obviously on the go for the communication.
I love that. I with the recent, last couple months kind of up and down. Of course, the markets are doing pretty decent the last couple of weeks, but our company's done a training called Steady Words, how to communicate with confidence, during volatile times, and even just understanding, some of your clients' journey, they're kind of their freak out mode, like where they're going to go from impulsivity to fear to, it's like if you just know how to anticipate and be able to speak to them with confidence, it's amazing, the trust that you can build with them.
Yeah, I mean, how you deliver news, and then their reaction, and then how you react to their reaction is a lot. Here's the news, and what are the typical things? Rate volatility. We need more paperwork. This might be delayed. No matter whom you are in the business, things like that happen. It's under when you speak to them, it's like a relationship. It's listening, validating how they feel, empathizing. Telling them what you heard, how their feelings are important, all that stuff. It's like when you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, it's the same thing. Everyone wants to feel like they're heard and their feelings matter. Same thing with a client because their feelings certainly matter. Mortgage is transactional, but at the end of the day, you want the 5-star review, you want a client for life for the future. So it's sometimes telling them the news, letting them speak, telling them, hey, listen, I heard you say whatever, X, Y, and Z, that it's frustrating. I totally empathize. This is the reality. Here's the great news. I think slowing down with clients and having those conversations, those deeper conversations, get you a lot farther than just being more AI, robotic. This is what it is. I think that's really what separates the best from the average.
Absolutely. AI is the rage. Obviously, we're all reading about it, experiencing it and all that kind of stuff. And the other day, I was thinking about we try to speak with people specialized with our client communication skills. So how can we continually be helping sales professionals, do that? And I was thinking the other day of like a sales professional, trying to answer every question to their client by first, asking ChatGPT, how should I answer that? And then just reading it. And I'm like, it's probably happening. We need to keep, as much as AI and all that, it's great. We can learn from it. The people first communication skills are just, just huge. What are some of the things that you've done with your team to kind of equip them, help them, empower them with their people first communication skills?
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to AI, I just saw the movie with Megan Fox where she's like a robot, and it's all good with the robots and the AI until they're not all good, and then they have to be repositioned, and they can't figure it out themselves. I think it's called they daydream. So it's
Right.
the same thing. You can't remove us from the process because as the questions turn into a next one. Like eventually the AI won't know. So I think AI, especially in the mortgage business, is great for the things that you can delegate that are very basic, data entry, reviewing certain documents. But when it comes to like, listen, in mortgage, it's a lot of money on the line. People can put down $200,000 on contract, and if something goes wrong, lose it and burn it into thin
Yep.
air. So it's the same thing. With some of these real high level surgeries, sure, could robots hop in and help out, but you need someone overseeing because it's just one of those things where the professional, you can't remove the professional yet. It's very, very, very difficult in New York still to get a mortgage. Don't know why, just is what it is. So until that's streamlined, you could push a button and get a mortgage. I think that AI has its place, but it's really high level professionals are still needed without a doubt.
Mm. So many of us, our journeys are kind of up and down. Was there, a moment for you in your business as you were building, as you're growing, where things seemed to bottom out? Maybe it was something you've either self-sabotaged on your own, or you just stuff you didn't see coming, and you were kind of at that pivotal, like, oh, what do I do? How am I going to, get past here? And how did you, kind of come through it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So funny enough, ironically, when I first rolled out in 2017, I won at the time. It was called the Namby Kickstarter Award. I won $10,000. What I didn't know in New York is when you branch or license a location, you have to ask them if there was a previous entity in mortgage there, because if they were and they didn't vacate correct, it's like a non-usable space. So good old, yeah, you know where this is going. So of course I'm the man. I bring in my IT guy, my wiring guy. I'm hanging TVs. I wish I had like a Red Bull dispenser, right? I did everything. And then what happens?
Mm.
Literally, I don't even think I'm kidding. I send the licensing in and they decline the location because it was previously used by a company that was under scrutiny in New York, and they didn't. It was one of their branches. They didn't vacate it from a regulatory perspective, correct? So I burned like 14 grand, 10 of which was the grant, out of the gate. That was super humbling because I'm one of those guys. I don't know if you have kids, they learn things either the hard way or the easy way. I am a hard way guy. I love the
Yep.
hard way. It's fun, but man, that was a hard way thing. That was when I first rolled out, last year. So I had built, a top team across the country, and last year we did some repositioning. We were going to make a big push to recruiting. And I realized in our space right now, the industry is really about the top producers. And so, in my opinion, I define loan officers as, are they a junior, a senior, or a grinder? So this
Mm.
is defined by how much you're doing and what you're willing to do to get there. So a junior does a couple loans a month, give or take, in my opinion. Because if you think about it, in a 40-hour day, and I'm not saying loan officers work 40 hours, they're in sales. I'm sure you know how sales guys work. Oftentimes, one day, 14 hours, the next day, zero. Then, just because you go into the office and you check your email and your social media all day, have breakfast, have lunch, and then go home, didn't mean that you put in a full day of work. How we define and delineate what actual work is another story. So I do by juniors a couple a month, a senior loan officer 4 to 6 closings a month on average, and a grinder. A grinder is willing to put in the work for working on the business, in the business, for growth. I feel like there's a lack of that in the industry right now. I mean, there's statistics. I think like 2/3 of the loan officers are leaving the industry. It's difficult. It's not easy.
Wow.
So I feel like I had a pivotal moment last year. I spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money on recruiting. I thought that was going to be the play. And I realized with what's offered to LOs, what it would take to get them on board, what it would do to my company's reputation and profitability. I had a moment where months into it, this isn't the play. The play is to build a core. So, like, you ever see the movie Troy? The Mermaid in, it was Brad Pitt. He was like the leading art, but there was only like 10 of them. So I feel like our company, although we're more than 10, I feel like we're like the high level Navy SEAL gangsters of the space. So my focus is my team and my company who's here growing their business. So if you average each LO that's here, loan officer that's here versus others, the average loan officer, some of these bigger places closes 0.75 loans a month, 1.2 loans a month. Our mission here is between my team and the other loan officer teams that are here to have them 10x the industry. That is something that I learned last year as a focus. I think over time profitability, it's better. I think culture, it's a lot better. I learned it probably the hard way because in a down market, I spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of resources trying to
Oof.
do the other way. Yeah, I mean, listen, I have two awesome little daughters. I could have done a lot of cool trips with them, saving some of the spend. But I'm very happy in the journey, excited about the future. Excuse me, because I feel like we found the cheat code of what's going to work in this space right now. But it did come at the cost of a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. So with that, learning and grow and scaling and growing, how do you how do you keep the personal touch with your team? How do you keep, make sure the values, especially as your company continues to grow, how do you make sure everyone's kind of grounded in those values?
That is a great question. That is something that I've recently learned. I've learned a lot of things recently at 43 years old in my journey of, entrepreneurialhood and world domination. Communication. As a leader, I looked at myself as a leader only in those posters where what's a true leader? He's not like whipping, he's the one in the front doing it with the people. So that's why people are here because I will go to war with every person
Mm.
here with them to make sure that the process for their clients, for them gaining business, always is exactly as they need. I didn't realize as a leader, there's all the other ancillary stuff,
Yes.
leading by example, doing the meetings with the team, communication between departments, always being on time and or early. It's funny in college football, if you weren't there 15 minutes early, you're considered late. So I'm trying to bring that to the mortgage business as well, to my company. But those are some of the things that keep the company culture and elasticity. Those are the things that are important, which is the communication, open forum for people, and making sure that I'm leading by example with what I'm doing. Those are the big focuses now.
Boy, it's amazing. You're young and you think you kind of know everything, and you look at the people above you and you're like, "Oh, I would do it this way if if it were me." And then you finally get to that place and you're like, "Wow, I I was
I
just
didn't know shit, right? Like literally.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
think your 30s, it's like you're full of, I mean, for me at least, testosterone, vision, grit and grind, New York, right? Like, I'll drink the Red Bull, get out of the way, I'll out hustle everyone. And then in your 40s, and I was a smarty in school, I had a good SAT score and, all that good stuff. But then in your 40s, you're like, oh snap, my 30-year-old version of me wasn't exactly correct. I should read all the books, the Atomic Habits, the Buy Back Your Time, all that good stuff. I
Yep.
don't know everything. As smart as you are, you don't know everything. Let's humble down. Let's really dig in and do it the smart way, not necessarily just the grit and grind. That's how I'd classify my early 40s, especially in my 43 year.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. That is powerful. As you
Andrew,
look
what would you tell your 30-year-old self? Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay.
right.
All the energy and hard work is great, but you got to do all the stuff you don't want to. You got to read the books. You got to slow down. You got to, instead of ready aim fire, it's ready fire aim. Let's do a little bit. Do it the right way. I hate to say that when people in their 30s are like, oh, when you're in your 40s, you're gonna learn all this stuff. I remember in my 30s, I was like, zip it, zip it. But it is true. I'm living proof, and I take a lot of pride in this company. But there's a lot of stuff you learn along the journey that if you could tell your younger self, or any entrepreneurs out there, definitely take the time. I don't care how smart you are in your 1600 SAT and your 100 point, one GPA or whatever it is. Read the books. There's some amazing books out there that'll give you a lot of perspective on things. And as much as you think there's a cajillion more things to know. Get off the reels and read the books and really invest in yourself. It's a free education typically. I mean, I'm on Amazon Kindle or whatever I have. I listen to audiobooks now. And it really helps because, again, I think smart people that are a little bit younger want to figure it out themselves or think hustle will do it. And I think slowing down and really investing in yourself with some of the stuff is the key.
Do you guys do kind of company wide with some of that learning? Do you, recommend, hey, we're reading this book this month, or any of those kind of learning initiatives?
Yeah, I think from more of a high level, listen, sales guys, you're lucky if you convince them to wear the tie to work on a Tuesday. just the truth, myself included. I have a big neck. I haven't worn a tie since,
I'm with you.
several presidents. Yeah, you're, but no, I take a lot of the stuff that I learn and I infuse it in. So in other words, some of the case in point, typical things salespeople struggle with. Get out of your email. Just had a great call today with an amazing producer, and she said, just like I had as well, obsessive, almost addictive email reading. Now, nothing in the email box moves the needle with any of our businesses. It's just this OCD hyper focus on the customer journey and what could go wrong, and a lot of spiraling. So, like, I learned that in Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. Get out of your email, work on the business growth stuff, not within the business, on the business. How to do that, assistance, getting, or your loan officer assistants, getting them into your inbox. There's all strategies and SOPs for it. But that's what I kind of bring. And it's literally things I'm just learning even for myself. I produce a high amount just on grit and grind without tracking and all the stuff that's all the easy stuff. So it's really through my trials and tribulations, telling the team and just offering it out. Not everybody. It's like one of those things. Like, take this gift. Not
Yep.
everybody will take this gift. I don't know if I would receive a gift, a decade ago. I'm like, oh, what do you know, man?
Yeah.
No, but all I can say is a lot of stuff I have learned. We're now offering out to the company, and we're definitely seeing the growth.
Wow. Well, some of the companies I work with, they see some breakdown, especially in the communication between the generations. The boomers, they communicate one way, and the Gen X, they communicate one way. Millennials and Gen Z, what have you guys, faced? Have you seen kind of some of that headbutting as the different
Oh,
ages and
100%. I
generations?
mean, I don't know the Gen whatever. Let's say, what am I 43. So like 45, 50, 55, 60 year olds, probably 50 and above sales guys. Um it's a lot of calling, it's no text, a little less technology, and then like the mid to late 20s, early 30s are pure text.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't sell somebody on a text, dude. And then also, some in the 50s, some of the clients like, you don't have to call me every second, dude. My generation doesn't even answer calls. So it's like, marrying that in the middle where you have, the older population over 43 and older, getting some of the tech tools, buying into it, teaching an old dog new tricks. And some of the younger generation, because they're so used to messaging and not like, hey, how are you? This is Andrew. How's your, and
Yep.
they lack those skills just because they're not used to going to a bar and meeting somebody and asking them on a date. They're going on an app and sending a message,
Right.
kind of marrying and meeting in the middle for that, telling the younger generation. I hear myself telling this generation, because I just did last week, you got to call them. Don't be scared. Pick up the phone and call. And then, like I said, the older generation is saying there's nothing wrong with sending a message and not calling someone 10 times a day.
Right, right. I do training for some banks for their call centers, and it's amazing. They get the younger ones, and they're just, I mean, the stress that the younger generation has just for calling. It's like, okay, okay, acknowledge it, but we're gonna help you get over it because this is the job. You're gonna be able to have these conversations and be able to move forward because that's what it's about.
I
Uh,
think the truth of the matter is I'm the gangster generation. I think we're called like Gen X or
Gen
something. It's
X.
the one
Yep.
between 78 and 83, I think. And it's
Yep.
basically, we had Blockbuster, now Netflix, we had dial up, and then it went to, whatever. We had all the different phone iterations. So we experienced the old and the new from a tech perspective. So I used to speak on the phone a lot, and then all of a sudden you were texting. So we're kind of the tried and trusted of both. But so we're not on either side of the fence. We've experienced both.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's just crazy how fast things change at times, and those kind of things happen with the younger generation sometimes, and with the your whole team, as it is. This idea of empathy when kind of some moments in their lives are the floor is falling out, and things are just not going the way they hope. Personally in the workplace, those kind of ideas. How do you, as you lead the team, as you lead, your company, how do you deal, specifically show empathy in kind of a, couple of those different things? Either their work's not going very well, their supervisor's been having the conversation with them. Hey, you've got to pick up the pace. You got to pick up the pace. And then maybe the other empathy moment is, maybe they have been doing well at work, but life is just, shitting all over them. How do you respond with empathy in both of those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. Responding with that, I think there's business and there's personal. I think if
Mm.
anyone's a leader and owner of a company, you build a personal relationship, especially if you're a small to medium sized business. you have to build a personal relationship with your employees. And I don't look at them as employees. It's like the worst word in the world. But why are they here? They're probably here because they like me. That's how they had an interview. My personality, I'm a little bit out there, and they're like, I like this guy. Let's like work together and make some money together in different capacities. On the business side, I always tell them, and just I'm more, rationalization, another psychology thing.
Yep.
Uh, I do a lot of meetings where we talk about the market, the opportunity, the blessing when things get harder. It's just a lot of conversation. So they always see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then it's more on the personal side, not business. Bad things happen in this business. People are making 20 grand a month and it turns to zero. There's nothing wrong with, hey, let's leave the office. Let's grab a big fattening steak. Let's have a glass of wine together and let's just like have some laughs. And I think between that, one of our processing manager here, sometimes, processing and mortgage is the most thankless job. We'll literally leave, go next door is a great restaurant, and we had this inside joke where we ordered 5 desserts once. We just ordered 5 desserts. I don't know if you know this. A lot of times the way to a woman's heart is through dessert. So we ordered 5 desserts. We had a glass of wine. It's just sometimes it's literally all you need. Remove yourself.
Yep.
But that's the personal side, and that's the
Yep.
difference.
Oh, I love that. Just in your industry, any innovations that you are hoping are going to happen, or as you kind of look into the future to go, okay, this is where I think this is where it's headed.
Yeah, the AI agent is the new rage, right? What does that mean? A lot of mortgage is kind of known to get tech last. So, we have an amazing partnership with UWM, the biggest lender in the country. They're phenomenal for us, for our clients. They just rolled out an AI agent for voice. It's called a loan officer assistant. They called it Mia. It's pretty cool. We just heard about it last Thursday. That's the first of its kind, offered free out to their brokers. They also have other, chat GPT type iterations to help us in business. So it's there. It's like, I'm still a Googler. I haven't like searched it up yet in chat GPT. I'm in there kind of sort of now. I just feel like AI agents, just conceptually understanding that there's a task that has a couple things. That's an agent. Build the agent, replace that task, and keep doing that. That's going to start entering our industry, and it's the little things like marketing, some of the document follow up with just communication reminders with clients, data entry into CRMs, things like that. I don't think it's gonna. There's so many things that go wrong in a mortgage process that have to be firefighted, if that's a word. I
Yeah.
don't think an AI agent's going to replace that. There's just so much. But that is the thing. It's replacing going to a human, asking them a scenario, put into Chat GPT, or having a human call and follow up. An AI agent can do the follow up. We're not there yet, but I'm sure in a year or 2 years that'll be the new thing. So it could play out in a lot of different ways, but it's really wrapping your hands around the AI stuff. And I don't think robots are going to be here tomorrow. I think people want the human element with them on the journey because it's so stressful. But it's definitely here, so it's interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it will be something as we figure it out. I think way back, the Will Smith movie I Robot, and you're like, "Oh boy, are we coming to that, that phase?" Or as we, figure things out, it'd be incredible. So, with all of your experience, the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom, if we have a listener listening who, they've started something, a business, they're in the grind, they're a couple years in, and they're just at that like, is this going to work out? Do I keep going? Any words of wisdom, challenge, thought for them as they continue to move on their journey?
Yeah, I would say keep going for sure, no question. But that's all contingent on your plan, right? So I'm one of those like OCD business planner guys where if I really, think about what is necessary for success, where does it come from, what would it take, map out the plan, and then go and execute. Don't go and execute on a plan that was dead on arrival. Some entrepreneurs have business plans and they could talk to anybody, people they know, like, and trust. Doesn't have to be their spouse, significant other, or their parents. I'm sure they have mentors. So find a great mentor that you trust that actually will celebrate you when you win. Cody Sanchez talks about that a lot too. It's hard to find as you're rising and you're doing well in the entrepreneurial space and you're doing better than your friends or family or whomever. It's hard to
Wow.
find those that'll cheer you on versus it's the human element. Sometimes there's just that malicious, and I'm not saying everyone's like that, but there's such a thing as toxic friends, there's such a thing
Yep.
as toxic family. I've been blessed that I didn't have that, but I've been around plenty of people that did. So I would say number one, make sure your business plan on day one wasn't dead on arrival. And there have been, if this all hits, what happens? Can you scale? No. So what's going to happen? It's a hobby. Is it a hobby, or you're trying to make money at it? Is a big thing. And then two, the right business mentor is everything. I mean, Crystal Lyle. I can't say enough about Crystal Lyle. He owns arguably the biggest attorney firm and title company in the state of New York. He's been my business mentor from day one. He is someone that celebrates when I do well and is there for me to give great advice. Without someone like him, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's super important for entrepreneurs, because think about it. If you're a boat out to sea and you're going in the wrong direction and people are pushing you in the wrong direction, you're destined for failure. It doesn't mean you're going
Yep.
to fail, but you have to correct that as soon as possible. And I think great people around you, a great ecosystem certainly helps.
Ah, well, that's an amazing way to cap that conversation. I mean, I've written a page and a half of incredible notes. I know it's going to be just transformational for our listeners. Before I let you go, though, we're building this online library for communicators and leaders to find new resources to kind of spur them and challenge them. When it comes to speakers, is there a speaker that you've heard that's just stuck with you? Like you remember that talk, you think other people should listen to that speaker?
I have. Hearing Dan Martell speak for me is good, because I feel like buy back your time for me and for many in the mortgage space. He hasn't really correlated, I've seen yet, to the mortgage space in America, but it's really, it spoke to me
Yeah.
about a lot of the things you do. That's been transformational with my headspace on all the things we do in mortgage. And if you look at a different way, how you can grow, that's helped. I could never say enough about Roberto Monaco. Roberto Monaco is a national speaker and a coach. He teaches you how to do public speaking, how to influence from the front. He's been the best. Anytime I do a big event, I always try to have him come. He's worked under the Tony Robbins umbrella. He has his own firm. He is absolutely amazing, because for us too, to try to influence clients and to try to influence realtor partners, as an example, how you say things, how you present. He's taught me
Yep.
so many things. People like that have been super instrumental.
That's powerful. If you're a podcast listener, not everyone is, but if you are, is there a guilty pleasure or a development one that you just keep going back to or just highly recommend?
It's twofold. One's podcast ish, and the other is separate. One is, I'm just a big Jocko and Goggins guy. I love, so I have little girls. I try to, in front of them, I've never cursed once. I mean, I'm a big 6'3", 280 football player, but so Goggins curses a lot. I get it. It's cool. Gary Vee cursed a lot, but I love the Goggins stuff, and I
Yeah.
love Jocko, the whole good, like when things are down, and the fact that we're breathing still and there's opportunity. It's time to kind of like buckle up and get back at it. They've been, some of those videos and what they say has been instrumental. But on the other side, my addiction with the YouTube and the YouTube shorts is actually salsa. So
Hmm.
I am on, if this doesn't work out, this whole mortgage thing, I'll come back on your show. I'm going to be the number one gringo salsero. There's a big opening in the market for big, blue eyed guys, bulky, that know how to salsa dance, because there are none. So that's been instrumental for
I
my
love
healthy.
it.
Yeah. So I do that besides the podcast. I'm like really getting to the salsa rage.
Yeah. And then lastly, you run into somebody, they're about to go to a desert island. They can only take one book. What's the book you send them with?
My favorite book growing up, Dracula.
Mm, I love it. I love it.
Random. But
I
for
know
some reason,
it's,
I love the book Dracula. I'm a big like vampire guy. Was.
I, I love it. So where can we send our listeners to find out more about you, connect with you online, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, great, thank you. We do a big push on the social media side. It's at I am Andrew Russell, two S's, two L's. At I am Andrew Russell, two S's, two L's. Our website's rcgmortgage.com, and we are the biggest believer in education first. A lot of our content is very entertaining. Me and a 6 and an 8-year-old, two little blondies. They are amazing daughters, but they don't take any crap from daddy. So a lot of our content has them, kind of woven in, which is kind of cool. And it's cool to see a big guy getting bossed around by little blondies. But again, we're big into education. We're making a big push now on YouTube. So that's where you can find us.
Ah, we'll make sure we tag all of that. We'll put that in the speakers group on Facebook and our Speak with Your Client group on LinkedIn. It'll be in our email and everything. Andrew, this was incredible. I mean, thank you for sharing your wisdom and for being so authentic and helping so many of our listeners. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Speak with People podcast. It means the world to us when you share this episode. Thanks for liking, subscribing, or following the podcast. That really does help the podcast get into more ears and into more leaders listening. Also, don't forget, we have 2 exciting resources for you. The first is go to Facebook and join the Speakers Group. This is a community designed for leaders who want to grow their communication skills. Also, go to speakwithpeople.com/skills library to access the Communication Skills Library. It is an online resource chock filled with resources that will inspire you and transform you and grow your communication skills. Thanks again for being a part of the listening community. We cannot wait for the next episode.